A girl sat terrified in her room as her stepfather's voice echoed through the house. Then she heard it, the rumble of 120 motorcycles surrounding her home. She looked out the window and saw him, the biker leader who'd promised her late mother he'd protect her daughter. He hadn't broken that promise. Maya pressed her back against the cold bedroom wall, holding her breath. Downstairs, Rick's voice cut through the house like broken glass. I don't care what you need. The money's tied up. You'll get it when you get it. She hugged her knees tighter, her mother's old jewelry box clutched against her chest. Inside were the only things she had left, a faded photo, a silver bracelet, and a small embroidered patch with a bird spreading its wings. Her mom had been working on it the week before the accident. The week everything changed. That was 8 months ago. 8 months of living with a man who looked at her like she was an expensive mistake he couldn't return. Rick slammed something downstairs, probably his phone against the kitchen counter again. Maya flinched. She'd learned to read his moods by the sounds he made. Loud meant angry. Silent meant planning something worse. Then, she heard it. A low rumble in the distance. Faint at first, like distant thunder on a clear night. But it grew, and grew. The kind of deep, mechanical growl that made windows rattle and hearts skip. Maya crept to her window and pulled back the curtain just an inch. Her street, the quiet, boring suburban street where nothing ever happened, was filling with motorcycles. Not one or two. Dozens. They rolled in slowly, headlights cutting through the evening darkness like searchlights. The sound was overwhelming now, a symphony of engines that made her ribcage vibrate. One by one they parked, circling the house, forming a perfect perimeter along the sidewalk, the driveway, even across the street. Maya counted 10, then 20, then stopped counting. There had to be over 100 of them. Neighbors stepped onto their porches. Mrs. Chun from next door stood frozen with her garden hose still running. Mr. Kapoor pulled out his phone, probably calling the police. Maya's heart hammered. What is happening? Rick burst out the front door, his face red even in the dim porch light. What the hell do you people think you're doing? This is private property. I'll call the cops. The bikers didn't respond. They just sat there on their bikes, engines idling, a wall of leather and chrome and quiet intimidation. Then one of them, a man with silver-streaked hair pulled into a long ponytail, dismounted. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a leather vest covered in patches. He removed his helmet slowly, deliberately, and looked directly up at Maya's window. Their eyes met. The man's face was weathered, lined with years of sun and road dust, but his eyes were sharp. Kind. He gave Maya a single, small nod. Not threatening. Reassuring. Maya's hands trembled. She didn't know this man. Didn't know any of these people. But something in that nod felt safe. Rick was still yelling, stepping off the porch now, pointing and gesturing wildly. I know my rights. You can't just. We're not on your property, the man said calmly. His voice carried despite the rumbling engines. We're on public streets. We're not breaking any laws. You're harassing me. We're sitting, he crossed his arms. Quietly. 2 police cars rolled up, lights flashing. Officer Brennan, Maya recognized him from school safety assemblies, stepped out looking utterly confused. He approached the man first. Marcus, what's going on here? Marcus. So the cop knew him. Evening, Tom. Marcus's voice was steady, respectful. Just exercising our right to peaceful assembly. We'll keep the noise down after 9, per city ordinance. Officer Brennan rubbed his face. There's over 100 of you. 120. Actually, Marcus smiled faintly. Is there a legal limit on how many bikers can park on a public street? Rick stormed over. They're terrorizing my family. My stepdaughter is terrified. Marcus's eyes flicked back to Maya's window. Maya hadn't moved. She was still standing there, visible through the gap in the curtains, jewelry box in hand. To anyone paying attention, she didn't look terrified of the bikers. She looked terrified of Rick. Officer Brennan seemed to notice this too. He studied Rick for a long moment, then turned back to Marcus. How long are you planning to stay? As long as we need to. That's not an answer. Marcus's expression hardened just slightly. It's the only one I've got tonight, Tom. The second officer, younger and clearly uncomfortable, leaned over. We could cite them for noise ordinance after 9, or if there are complaints about blocking access. They're not blocking anything. Officer Brennan cut him off. He looked tired, like he knew something was happening here that couldn't be solved with citations. Look, Marcus, you know I can't have this turn into a situation. It won't. Marcus gestured to the bikers behind him. Not one had moved aggressively. Several were sitting on the ground now, just waiting. We're not here to cause trouble. We're here to prevent it. Rick's face went purple. That's a threat. You heard that, right? He just threatened me. He said he's preventing trouble. Officer Brennan said flatly. That's not a threat, Mr. Castellano. Maya watched it all unfold like a surreal movie. Rick was losing. She'd never seen him lose an argument before. He always had the upper hand. Always knew what to say to make people believe him, to make her feel small. But these bikers, they weren't intimidated. They weren't leaving. The police eventually drove away, warning Marcus that any actual disturbance would result in arrests. Rick stormed back inside, slamming the door so hard the wreath on it fell off. Maya heard him stomping through the house, heard him on his phone again, calling someone, his lawyer probably, or maybe one of his shady business partners. But she didn't move from the window. Because outside, the bikers stayed. As darkness fully settled over the neighborhood, they set up camp. Someone started a small portable grill. Another pulled out a deck of cards. A few laid out sleeping bags next to their bikes. Marcus looked up at Maya's window one more time. This time, he placed his hand over his heart, then pointed upward at Maya. I see you. We're here for you. Maya's eyes burned with tears. She didn't understand why, didn't understand how. But for the first time in 8 months, as she climbed into bed with the sound of 100 motorcycle engines humming softly outside her window, she felt safe. Maya woke to the smell of coffee and engine oil. For a confused moment, she thought she'd dreamed everything. Then she looked out her window. They were still there. Some were awake, stretching and talking in low voices. Others slept in sleeping bags on the grass. Marcus stood by his motorcycle, pouring coffee from a thermos, talking to a massive bald man with a gray beard that reached his chest. Rick hadn't come out of his room yet. Maya could hear him snoring through his closed door as she crept downstairs. She grabbed her backpack, skipped breakfast, there was never much anyway, and slipped out the back door. She had to know who these people were. The Crossroads Diner sat 3 blocks away, a rundown place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like burnt tires. Maya had passed it 1,000 times, but never gone inside. It was always full of bikers. Now she knew which bikers. She approached slowly, her stomach twisting with nerves. Through the large front windows, she could see them, at least 30 packed into booths and around tables pushed together. Marcus sat at the center, a map spread out in front of him. Maya ducked beside the building, near the side window, where she could hear but not be seen. Can't just camp there forever, someone was saying. A man's voice, raspy from cigarettes. Brennan gave us a pass last night, but the city council will get involved. Let them, that was Marcus. We stay until she's safe. Define safe, the big bearded man said. The guy's a scumbag, but he hasn't actually hurt her, has he? Not yet, Marcus said quietly. But men like Rick Castellano don't need a reason. They just need an opportunity. Silence fell over the group. Maya's hands gripped the windowsill. How did they know Rick? How did they know her? Tell them, another voice said. Younger male. Some of these guys weren't around back then. They deserve to know why we're doing this. Marcus sighed deeply. Maya watched him through the window as he pulled something from his vest pocket. A photograph. He laid it on the table. Her name was Diane Shun, Marcus said. 15 years ago, she was part of our community. Not a rider. She couldn't afford a bike, but she designed our first club logo. That hawk with spread wings? That was Diane. Maya's breath caught. Mom. She hung around the clubhouse when she was in college. Marcus continued. Painted murals on our garage, fixed our patches when they tore. She was light. You know? The kind of person who made everything better just by being there. The bearded man, someone called him Bear, nodded slowly. I remember her. Tiny thing. Always had paint under her nails. One night, my brother Johnny was riding back from a run. Drunk driver ran him off the road into a ditch. Marcus's voice went rough. Diane was driving home from her night shift. She found him, called 911, climbed down into that ditch, and kept pressure on his wounds until the ambulance came. Saved his life. Maya's eyes burned. She'd never heard this story. After that, she was family, Marcus said. Real family. When she graduated and got married, we were all there. When she had Maya, Marcus smiled faintly. She brought that baby girl to the clubhouse wrapped in a blanket with our logo embroidered on it. So what happened? Someone asked. Life happened, Marcus said. Her husband left when Maya was 3. Diane worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. We helped when we could, but she was proud. Didn't want charity. Then 5 years ago, she married Rick Castellano. The temperature in the diner seemed to drop. We didn't trust him, Marcus continued. Something about him felt wrong. But Diane loved him, said he was good to Maya, said he made her feel secure. So we backed off. Gave her space, he paused. Last year, Diane called me. Said she'd made a mistake. Said Rick's business was dirty, and he was getting paranoid, controlling. She was planning to leave him. Maya's heart stopped. She died 3 weeks later, Marcus said flatly. Car accident. Brake failure. Jesus, someone whispered. Cops ruled it accidental. Maybe it was. Marcus's jaw tightened. But before she died, Diane made me promise something. She said if anything ever happened to her, I needed to watch over Maya. Make sure Rick didn't. He stopped, choosing his words carefully. Make sure Maya stayed safe. Bear leaned back. That's why we're here. That's why we're here, Marcus confirmed. I owe Diane my brother's life. I owe her more than that. I won't let her daughter suffer because I didn't act. Maya's vision blurred with tears. She'd thought her mother's death was just bad luck. A terrible accident. But now. So what's the plan? The raspy-voiced man asked. We can't protect her forever. Marcus folded the map. We don't just protect her. We make sure Rick can't hurt her. Ever. How? Marcus's smile was cold. We dismantle him. Maya barely made it through the school day. Her mind kept circling back to what she'd heard at the diner. Brake failure. Made a mistake. Watch over Maya. Had Rick killed her mother? The thought sat in her stomach like a stone, heavy and cold. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run back to that diner and demand answers. But instead, she sat through algebra, English, and history, pretending everything was normal. It wasn't until the final bell rang that she remembered. She'd have to go home. Back to Rick. Back to the house where her mother had been afraid. She stepped outside and froze. The school parking lot was never quiet during dismissal. Today it was silent. Every student, every teacher, every parent in a minivan stared at the same thing. 20 motorcycles lined the street outside the school. The riders sat calmly, waiting. Marcus stood at the front, arms crossed, watching the building entrance. Whispers erupted around Maya. Is that a gang? Someone's in trouble. Are they here for a student? Maya's best friend, Keisha, grabbed her arm. Girl, what is happening? Those bikers were outside your house this morning. I saw the pictures on Nextdoor. Now they're here. Maya couldn't find words. She just started walking toward them. Toward Marcus. The crowd parted like she was contagious. Marcus's expression softened when Maya approached. Hey kid, thought you might want to ride home. You're making a scene, Maya whispered. Good. Marcus glanced past her at the gawking crowd. Let them look. Let everyone see you're not alone. Maya felt something crack open in her chest. When was the last time someone had shown up for her? Actually shown up? Not with words, but with presence. Come on, Marcus said gently. Bear's got an extra helmet. The ride home was surreal. Maya sat behind Bear on his massive Harley, her arms wrapped around his leather vest, the wind whipping her hair. The other bikes flanked them like an honor guard. Students filmed from their parents' cars. Teachers stood on the curb, mouths open. Let them see. Let them all see. When they arrived back at Maya's street, she expected the same scene as last night. Bikers circling, neighbors watching, Rick furious. What she found was something else entirely. The bikers had settled in. Someone had brought folding chairs. Card tables were set up on the sidewalk, and 4 bikers played poker with worn cards. Another group had tools spread out, working on a bike engine in the driveway across the street. Mrs. Chun had apparently given permission. A lean man with weathered hands was carving something from wood, sitting on a lawn chair, wood shavings collecting at his feet. It looked less like a siege and more like a neighborhood barbecue. Except everyone wore leather and watched the house like hawks. Rick stood on the front porch, phone pressed to his ear, pacing. When he saw Maya arrive with the bikers, his face twisted. He ended the call, and stormed down the steps. "You can't keep doing this," he shouted at Marcus. "This is harassment. I've got a lawyer." "Call him," Marcus said calmly. He gestured to the bikers around them. "We're on public property. We're not threatening anyone. We're just hanging out." "For how long?" Marcus shrugged. "Long as it takes." "Takes for what?" "Until we're satisfied Maya's safe." Rick's eyes bulged. "Safe? Safe from what?" "I'm her legal guardian. I provide for her." "This is insane." Maya found her voice. It came out smaller than she wanted. "I didn't ask them to leave." Rick spun toward her. "What?" "I didn't ask them to leave," she repeated, louder this time. "They can stay." His face went red, then pale. She saw something flicker in his eyes. Calculation. He was realizing how this looked. Angry stepfather versus protective bikers and scared teenage girl. He was losing the optics. "Fine," he bit out. "But the second they break a law, I'm pressing charges." He jabbed a finger at Marcus. "One violation. That's all I need." He turned and stomped back into the house, slamming the door. The poker players didn't even look up. Marcus walked over to Maya. "You okay?" Maya nodded, but her hands were shaking. "He's going to be worse now. When we're alone." "You won't be alone," Marcus said. "Two of us will be awake at all times. If you need help, if anything happens, you turn your bedroom light on and off 3 times. We'll be inside in 30 seconds. Maya stared at him. "Why are you doing this?" "I mean, I heard what you said at the diner, but this is a lot." Marcus's expression softened. "Your mom saved my brother's life. But more than that." He reached out and squeezed Maya's shoulder. "You remind me of her. And nobody should have to be afraid in their own home." That night, as Maya lay in bed, she didn't hear Rick's footsteps in the hallway like usual. Didn't hear him pause outside her door. She heard cards shuffling, quiet laughter, the occasional rumble of an engine starting up, then idling back down. For the first time in 8 months, Maya slept through the night. 3 days passed. The bikers remained. Rick stopped yelling. That scared Maya more than his outbursts. He'd gone quiet, spending hours in his home office with the door locked, speaking in hushed tones on phone calls. He barely looked at her, barely spoke. He was planning something. Maya sat on the front porch steps on Saturday morning, watching Marcus and 2 other bikers work on a motorcycle engine. The big, bearded man, Bear, was explaining something about carburetors when a lean man with gray hair and sharp eyes approached. He looked different from the others. Less road-worn, more methodical. He carried a laptop bag. "Maya," Marcus said, "this is Frank. He used to be an accountant before he started riding full-time." Frank gave a slight nod. "Still do books for the club. Can't seem to shake the spreadsheet habit." He glanced at the house. "Rick home." "In his office," Maya said. "Why?" "We're looking into his business," Marcus said carefully. "The auto parts company. Something doesn't add up." Maya's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Frank sat down on the step beside her. "Your stepfather's company, Castellano Auto Supply. It's been flagged by several mechanics in the area. Parts failing prematurely, serial numbers not matching manufacturer records. We think he's selling counterfeit parts." "That's illegal, right?" Maya asked. "Very," Frank said. "But proving it requires documentation. Invoices, shipping records, supplier contracts. The kind of stuff he'd keep locked up tight." He paused. "Unless someone had access to his files." They both looked at Maya. "No," Marcus said sharply. "Absolutely not. We're not putting her at risk." "I can do it," Maya said quickly. "Kid, he killed my mom." The words came out hard, final. "You said her brakes failed. What if it wasn't an accident? What if he did something to her car because she was going to leave him?" Marcus and Frank exchanged glances. "We don't know that," Marcus said softly. "But you suspect it." Maya's hands balled into fists. "I heard what you said at the diner. You think he did it. So do I." The silence stretched between them. Bear stopped working on the engine. Other bikers nearby had gone quiet, listening. "Even if we suspect it," Marcus said carefully, "we can't prove it. The police investigated. They found nothing." "Then let's prove what we can," Maya said. "Let's prove he's a criminal. Get him arrested. Get him away from me." Her voice cracked. "Please. I can't live like this anymore." Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Okay, but carefully. You don't take risks. The second it feels dangerous, you stop." "Understood." "Understood." That evening, Maya waited until Rick left for his usual Saturday night poker game. He never missed it, not even with bikers camped outside. The moment his car pulled away, Marcus knocked on the front door. "You've got 2 hours," he said, slipping inside with Frank and Bear. "Make it count." Maya led them to Rick's office. The door was locked, but Bear produced a small tool kit and had it open in under a minute. "Misspent youth," he muttered at Maya's surprised look. The office was obsessively organized. File cabinets lined one wall, each drawer labeled. Rick's computer sat on the desk, password protected. "Start with the files," Frank said, pulling on latex gloves. "Look for anything marked suppliers, inventory, or invoices." Maya moved to a different part of the room. On a shelf behind Rick's desk sat a row of boxes, personal items he'd moved in after marrying her mom. She'd never paid attention to them before. But now one caught her eye. A wooden box, small and decorative. She recognized it immediately. "That's my mom's sewing box," she whispered. Marcus looked up. "You sure?" Maya nodded, reaching for it. She kept it in her closet. "I thought Rick threw it away after she died." She opened it carefully. Inside were spools of thread, needles, fabric scraps, and underneath, tucked beneath the removable top tray, a manila envelope. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. Inside were documents. Bank statements in her mother's name. Printed emails. Handwritten notes. "Oh my God," Maya breathed. Marcus came over. "What is it?" Maya spread the papers on the desk. Mom was keeping records. "Look, emails between Rick and someone named Jay Torres about shipments from overseas bank transfers to offshore accounts." She was documenting everything. Frank grabbed his laptop and started photographing each page. "This is incredible. These emails reference the counterfeit parts directly. Customers won't know the difference. Quality doesn't matter as long as we undercut competition." He looked up, eyes bright. "This is evidence of fraud. Serious fraud." Bear was going through the file cabinets now, pulling folders. "Got shipping manifests here. Half these serial numbers are duplicates, same number on parts supposedly from different factories." He whistled low. "This guy's been running this scam for years." Maya stared at her mother's handwriting on one of the notes. "Need to keep Maya safe. Getting worse." Her throat tightened. Her mom had known. Had been trying to stop him. "There's more," Marcus said quietly. He'd found another folder, this one tucked in the back of a drawer. "Insurance policies. Your mom's life insurance paid out $500,000. All to Rick." The room went cold. "Motive," Frank whispered. Maya's vision blurred. She gripped the edge of the desk to stay standing. "He killed her for money. We still can't prove that," Marcus said gently. "But this?" He gestured to the documents spread across the desk. "This we can prove. And this will put him away." By Monday morning, everyone at school had heard about the bikers. Maya walked through the hallways, feeling eyes on her from every direction. Whispers followed her like smoke. Some students stared with curiosity, others with fear. A few pointed and laughed. "Freak," someone muttered as she passed. Keisha caught up with her at her locker. "Girl, you need to tell me what's going on. The rumors are insane. People are saying you're in a gang. That your stepdad is a drug dealer. That those bikers are holding you hostage." "None of that's true," Maya said quietly. "Then what is true?" Maya slammed her locker shut. "The truth is my stepdad is a criminal. My mom might have been murdered, and those bikers are the only reason I feel safe right now." Keisha's eyes went wide. "Maya, I have to get to class." She walked away before Keisha could respond, her heart pounding. She shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have told anyone. But keeping it all inside was suffocating her. Third period, Maya was called to the principal's office. Principal Vargas sat behind her desk, expression serious. Beside her sat the school counselor, Mrs. Patterson, looking concerned. And in the chair closest to the door sat Rick, wearing his best concerned father face. Maya's stomach dropped. "Sit down, Maya," Principal Vargas said gently. She sat, as far from Rick as possible. "We've received some concerning reports," the principal continued, "about the situation at your home. A large group of bikers has apparently been camped outside your house for nearly a week now. They're not hurting anyone," Maya said quickly. "That's not the concern, sweetheart," Mrs. Patterson said. "We're worried about you. This must be very stressful." Rick leaned forward, his voice dripping with false worry. I've tried to get them to leave, but they won't listen. I've contacted the police multiple times. I'm concerned about Maya's safety. These are strangers, intimidating our neighborhood, following her to school. They're not strangers, Maya interrupted. Everyone looked at her. They knew my mom, she continued, her voice stronger now. They're protecting me. From what, honey? Mrs. Patterson asked gently. Maya's eyes locked on Rick. From him. Rick's mask slipped for just a second, a flash of anger in his eyes, quickly covered. Maya, that's ridiculous. I know you're upset about your mother, but making accusations. You're selling counterfeit auto parts, Maya said. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. Mom knew about it. She was collecting evidence before she died. The room went silent. Principal Vargas cleared her throat. Maya, these are very serious allegations. They're true. Maya pulled out her phone. Before leaving Marcus's place that morning, she'd taken photos of some of her mother's documents. She pulled up one now, an email from Rick discussing a shipment of replicas from overseas. She held it up. Mom documented everything. Rick's face went white, then red. Where did you get that? That's private property. You went through my office. Our office, Maya said. It's my house too. Maya, Mrs. Patterson said carefully. If there are legal concerns, they should be handled by proper authorities, not by. A knock on the office door interrupted her. The school secretary poked her head in. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are some people here who say they need to speak with Maya. They're quite insistent. Who? Principal Vargas asked, irritated. Marcus walked in, followed by Frank. They'd cleaned up. Marcus wore a button-down shirt instead of his leather vest, and Frank looked every bit the professional accountant in slacks and a blazer. But there was no mistaking the authority they carried. I'm Marcus Chun, Marcus said calmly. I'm a friend of the family, specifically of Maya's late mother. This is Frank Rodriguez, a financial consultant. We're here because we believe Maya is in an unsafe home environment. Rick stood up. You can't just barge in here. We can if we have reason to believe a minor is at risk, Frank said smoothly. He turned to Principal Vargas. We've compiled evidence of criminal activity conducted by Mr. Castellano. We've already shared this evidence with the district attorney's office. An investigation is currently underway. Rick's face drained of color. You have no right. We have every right, Marcus said. And so does Maya. The right to be safe. The right to be heard. He looked at the principal. Has anyone in this room asked Maya what she wants? Everyone turned to Maya. Her throat felt tight. Her hands shook. But she forced the words out. I want him away from me. I want to know what really happened to my mom. And I want to stop being afraid. Mrs. Patterson's expression shifted. For the first time, she looked at Maya, really looked at her, and seemed to see past Rick's performance. Mr. Castellano, Principal Vargas said slowly, perhaps you should leave. We need to speak with Maya privately. She's my stepdaughter. Now, Mr. Castellano. Rick stared at them all, his carefully constructed facade crumbling. Then he turned and walked out, but not before shooting Maya a look that promised consequences. The door closed behind him. Marcus immediately went to Maya's side. You did good, kid. Maya's whole body was shaking now. He's going to be so angry. He's not going to touch you, Marcus said firmly. I promise you that. Outside, through the office window, Maya could see Rick in the parking lot, pacing, phone pressed to his ear. Making calls, trying to save himself. But it was already too late. The story broke on Tuesday evening. Maya sat in Marcus's apartment. Marcus had insisted she stay there after the confrontation at school, watching the local news with a surreal sense of detachment. Tonight, an investigation into a local auto parts supplier has uncovered a massive counterfeit operation, the anchor announced. Behind her, a photo of Rick's warehouse filled the screen. Castellano Auto Supply, owned by Richard Castellano, is accused of importing and selling fraudulent parts that have put drivers at risk across 3 states. The screen cut to a reporter standing outside Rick's warehouse. Yellow tape blocked the entrance. Official-looking people in suits carried boxes of evidence to unmarked vans. Acting on a tip from an anonymous source, the reporter continued, state inspectors raided this warehouse early this morning. What they found was shocking. Thousands of counterfeit brake pads, airbags, and engine components, many with forged safety certifications. Maya's hands gripped the edge of the couch. This was really happening. The report cut to an interview with a mechanic holding a brake pad. See this stamp here? Says it's OEM, original equipment manufacturer. But it's fake. These things fail after a few thousand miles. I've had 3 customers come in with brake failure in the past year. All 3 had parts from Castellano. Brake failure, Maya whispered. Marcus, sitting beside her, squeezed her shoulder. We're looking into it. I promise. The news segment continued. A consumer protection lawyer appeared on screen, explaining how customers could file complaints. A phone number scrolled across the bottom. Within minutes, social media exploded, mechanics sharing stories, customers posting receipts, people demanding refunds. Rick's business was imploding in real time. We've also learned, the anchor said, that a criminal investigation is underway. The district attorney's office confirmed they're reviewing evidence of fraud, racketeering, and potential tax evasion. Mr. Castellano could not be reached for comment. The segment ended. Maya sat in silence. There's more, Frank said from the kitchen doorway. He'd been on his laptop for hours, coordinating with a journalist who'd helped break the story. His suppliers are cutting ties. 3 of them issued statements today distancing themselves from him. His business bank accounts have been frozen pending investigation. Bear, lounging in an armchair, grunted approvingly. Hit him where it hurts. The wallet. His lawyer dropped him too. Another biker, a man named Vince with a long scar across his cheek, added. He scrolled through his phone. Saw it on the legal gossip boards. Apparently Rick hasn't been paying his retainer. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled grimly. That was Tom Brennan. Police got a warrant for Rick's home office. They're going through everything tonight. Maya felt dizzy. A week ago, she'd been alone, terrified, trapped. Now Rick's entire world was collapsing. What about Maya's mom? Bear asked quietly. The brake thing. Can we prove it? Marcus's expression darkened. We've got a private investigator looking into it. The police report from the accident was thin, barely an investigation at all. Just ruled it mechanical failure and closed the case. Because Rick probably knew the right people, Frank said bitterly. Small-town corruption. Look the other way for a generous donation. The investigator is interviewing the mechanic who inspected Diane's car after the accident, Marcus continued, seeing if there's anything that was missed. It's a long shot, but it's something, Maya finished. She felt tears building, but pushed them back. Thank you. All of you. I don't know how to. You don't have to thank us, Marcus said firmly. Your mom was family. That makes you family. And we take care of our own. By Wednesday afternoon, Rick's life had fully unraveled. Customers filed a class action lawsuit. The insurance companies that had covered his fraudulent parts began their own investigation. The IRS announced they were auditing his tax returns from the past 7 years. Every news outlet in the state picked up the story. Rick's photo, an old one from a business award ceremony where he looked smug and successful, appeared everywhere, now associated with words like fraud, dangerous, and criminal. Maya watched it all from the safety of Marcus's apartment, surrounded by bikers who took turns making sure she ate, slept, and felt protected. On Thursday morning, Keisha texted, "Everyone at school is talking about it. Mr. Hendricks mentioned it in civics class. Are you okay?" Maya typed back, "I'm safe. I'll explain everything soon." That afternoon, Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression shifted from neutral to satisfied. When, he asked. A pause. We'll be there. He hung up and looked at Maya. That was Officer Brennan. They're arresting Rick tomorrow morning. Fraud, racketeering, and they're reopening your mother's case based on new evidence the investigator found. Maya's breath caught. What evidence? The mechanic who inspected your mom's car kept his own notes. He'd flagged the brake line as suspicious, said it looked like it had been deliberately scored, not worn naturally. But he was pressured to change his report. The room went silent. Pressured by who? Bear asked. Rick's business partner, who also happened to be on the town council. Marcus's smile was cold. They're both going down. Maya felt something break open inside her chest. Grief, rage, relief, all tangled together. She'd been right. They'd all been right. Rick had killed her mother. And now, finally, he would pay. Friday morning arrived with golden sunlight and an unusual stillness. Maya stood at Marcus's apartment window, watching the street below. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her mother's face, smiling in old photographs, worried in those final weeks, lifeless in the casket at the funeral. "You don't have to be there," Marcus said softly behind her. "We can handle it." Maya shook her head. "I need to see it. I need to know it's real." At 7 a.m., they rode to Maya's house, the house that had never felt like home after her mother died. The entire motorcycle club came, over 100 bikes rolling through the quiet suburban streets like a thunderous parade. Neighbors were awake this time, standing on porches, watching. Some held coffee mugs. Others held phones, recording. Everyone knew what was happening. The news had made sure of that. Mrs. Chin stood in her front yard, and when she saw Maya, she pressed her hand to her heart, a silent gesture of support. They parked in formation, the same perimeter they'd held for over a week. But this time, it felt different. Not like a siege, like a vigil. 2 police cars were already there, parked in the driveway. Officer Brennan stood by the front door with 3 other officers and 2 detectives Maya didn't recognize. Rick's car sat in the garage, but the door was closed. He was inside, trapped. Marcus helped Maya off the bike and kept a steady hand on her shoulder. "You stay back. Let them do their job." The front door opened. Rick emerged in wrinkled clothes, hair uncombed, eyes bloodshot. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Behind him, Maya could see the chaos of the house. Papers scattered, furniture moved, evidence of someone tearing through rooms looking for. What? An escape? Hidden money? Proof he could destroy? Officer Brennan stepped forward. "Richard Castellano, you're under arrest for fraud, racketeering, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and we're reopening the investigation into the death of Diane Castellano with you as a person of interest." Rick's face went slack. "This is insane. You can't." "We can, and we are," Brennan nodded to the other officers. "Read him his rights." As they approached with handcuffs, Rick's eyes swept the street. They landed on Maya. For a moment, his expression shifted, calculation, desperation, rage all flickering across his face. Then he lunged. Not toward the officers, toward Maya. "This is your fault," he screamed, breaking free and running down the porch steps. "You little." He didn't get another word out. Bear stepped into his path like a wall of leather and muscle. Rick bounced off him and stumbled backward into the waiting arms of 2 officers who immediately wrestled him to the ground. "Don't touch her," Bear said quietly. "Don't even look at her." Rick struggled, screaming obscenities, threatening lawsuits, blaming everyone but himself. The officers cuffed him roughly and hauled him to his feet. "You're just like your mother." Rick spat at Maya as they dragged him toward the police car. Weak. Pathetic. She deserved what she got. Maya's blood went cold. The entire street went silent. Even the officers paused. "What did you say?" Detective Torres asked, stepping forward. Rick seemed to realize his mistake. His face paled. "I didn't mean." "She deserved what she got," Torres repeated slowly. "That's an interesting choice of words, Mr. Castellano. Especially regarding a woman who died in what you claimed was an accident." Rick's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. "Take him in," Torres said, and add threatening a minor to the charges. They shoved Rick into the back of the patrol car. He stared out the window at Maya, his expression twisted with hatred, as the car pulled away. The street remained silent for a long moment. Then, as if on cue, every single motorcycle engine roared to life. The sound was deafening, a symphony of power and protection, a thunderous heartbeat that shook windows and rattled bones. It wasn't aggressive. It was declarative. "She's ours. She's safe. Justice is done." Neighbors began to clap. First Mrs. Chun, then Mr. Kapoor, then others joined. Some cheered. A few wiped tears from their eyes. Maya stood in the center of it all, surrounded by bikers, and felt something she hadn't felt in over a year. Free. Marcus pulled a leather jacket from his saddlebag, smaller than the others, clearly meant for someone Maya's size. He held it up, and Maya saw the embroidery on the back, a hawk with spread wings, and underneath, stitched in careful script, "Diane's daughter." "Your mom made the original design," Marcus said, his voice thick. "Seemed right that you should have one too." Maya's vision blurred. She took the jacket with shaking hands and slipped it on. It fit perfectly, like her mother had known someday she'd need it. Like her mother had planned for this moment all along. Marcus pulled Maya into a hug, and Maya finally let herself cry. Not tears of fear or sadness, but of relief, of ending, of beginning. "Thank you," she whispered. "No, kid," Marcus said softly. "Thank you for being brave enough to let us help." The engines quieted one by one, and the bikers began to pack up their things. The vigil was over. But Maya's new life was just beginning. 3 weeks later, Maya stood in front of a mirror in her aunt's house, smoothing down the leather jacket. Aunt Lisa, her mother's younger sister, had flown in from Colorado the day after Rick's arrest. She'd been crying and apologizing, saying she should have fought harder for custody after Diane died, should have known something was wrong. Maya had hugged her and said what mattered was that she was here now. The house smelled like cinnamon rolls and coffee. Nothing like Rick's house, which had smelled like stale beer and disappointment. Lisa's place was small, cluttered with art supplies and half-finished paintings. She was an illustrator, and it felt warm. Safe. Like a home. "You ready?" Lisa called from downstairs. Maya took a deep breath. Today was the Guardian Ride, an annual charity event the motorcycle club organized to raise money for kids in foster care and domestic violence survivors. Marcus had called 2 days ago and asked if Maya wanted to ride at the front of the pack. Maya had said yes without hesitation. She came downstairs to find Lisa waiting with a camera. "You look so much like your mom," she said, tears already forming. "God, Diane would be so proud of you." "Don't make me cry before we even leave," Maya said, but her own eyes were stinging. They drove to the rally point, a large parking lot outside the community center where over 200 motorcycles were already assembled. Riders milled around, checking bikes, greeting friends, drinking coffee from thermoses. When Maya stepped out of the car, heads turned. Then someone started clapping. It spread like wildfire. Within seconds, 200 bikers were applauding, whistling, cheering. For her. Maya felt her face flush. She wasn't used to being seen, really seen, let alone celebrated. Marcus appeared through the crowd, grinning. "There she is, our guest of honor." "I don't know about that," Maya said. "I do." Marcus guided her toward the front where a row of bikes waited. "You helped take down a criminal who'd been hurting people for years. You stood up when it mattered. That's worth celebrating." Bear stood beside a smaller motorcycle, not as massive as his usual ride. "This was your mom's," he said gruffly. "She kept it at the clubhouse. We fixed it up for you. Figured you might want to learn to ride someday." Maya stared at the bike. It was beautiful, deep blue with silver accents, and that familiar hawk emblem painted on the tank. Her mother's bike. Her mother had been a rider. "I didn't know she had a motorcycle," Maya whispered. "She got it right before she met Rick," Marcus said. "Never rode it much after that. He didn't like it, said it was too dangerous." He smiled sadly. "Your mom was a lot of things before Rick made her small." Maya ran her hand over the leather seat. She could almost feel her mother there, young and free and full of life. "For today, you'll ride with me," Marcus said. "But when you're ready, this one's yours." The ride began at noon. Maya sat behind Marcus on his bike, arms wrapped around his waist, as over 200 motorcycles rolled out of the parking lot in formation. The sound was overwhelming, glorious, a roar that seemed to shake the sky itself. They rode through town, past the school where students came outside to watch, past Rick's boarded-up warehouse with its foreclosure notice, past the house Maya used to live in, now empty, waiting to be sold to pay back Rick's victims. She felt no sadness looking at it, only relief that she'd never have to go back. The route took them through the countryside, along winding roads with autumn leaves blazing gold and red. The wind whipped Maya's hair, and she felt something unfurl inside her chest, something that had been locked down tight for so long she'd forgotten it existed. Joy. They stopped at a park where the charity event was set up, food trucks, live music, kids running around with painted faces. Maya helped at the information booth, talking to families, sharing her story when people asked. Some cried. Others hugged her. One woman, a domestic violence survivor, gripped Maya's hand and said, "You gave me courage to leave. Thank you." As the sun began to set, Marcus found Maya sitting on a picnic table, watching the crowd. "How you doing, kid?" Good, Maya said. And she meant it. Really good. Marcus sat beside her. Your aunt told me you're seeing a therapist next week. Maya nodded. Lisa set it up. Says I need to process everything, she paused. She's probably right. Definitely right. Marcus bumped her shoulder gently. Healing isn't weakness. It's strength. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the bikers pack up, families saying goodbye, kids clutching stuffed animals won at carnival games. Marcus, Maya said quietly. What happens now? To Rick, I mean. Trial's set for next spring, Marcus said. The DA is confident. Between the fraud charges and the new evidence about your mom, he trailed off. He's going away for a long time, Maya. And the investigator found proof, actual proof, that he tampered with your mom's brake line. He's being charged with murder. Maya absorbed this. She thought she'd feel vindicated, triumphant. Instead, she just felt tired. And sad. Sad for her mother who'd tried so hard to escape. Sad for the girl she'd been, scared and alone. But not sad for the girl she was now. I'm going to testify, Maya said. When the time comes. I want to. You don't have to. I want to, Maya repeated firmly. For Mom. Marcus smiled. She'd be proud of you. So damn proud. As darkness fell, the bikers gathered for one final moment. A closing ceremony where they read the names of people they'd helped that year. When Marcus read Diane's name, then Maya's, the crowd erupted in cheers and engine revs. Maya stood in the center of it all, wearing her mother's jacket, surrounded by people who'd become family not through blood, but through choice and courage and love. She wasn't the scared girl hiding in her bedroom anymore. She was Diane's daughter. She was a survivor. She was strong. And she was finally truly home.